You know that free-floating 2 a.m. dread you feel sometimes? Yeah, that exhaustion that just kind of sets in when everything in your life is technically fine, but nothing really feels settled? Well, what if I told you that this modern ambient panic might not be a medical malfunction at all? What if instead it's actually a deeply philosophical condition? Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to look at the true root of modern anxiety and, more importantly, a highly practical framework for curing it. Now, just to be completely clear right up front, clinical anxiety is very real, and if you need a doctor, you should absolutely see one. But for a lot of us, this chronic exhaustion we carry around every single day, it isn't a chemical imbalance. It's actually a symptom of having way too much freedom. It's a problem we've literally been misdiagnosing for the better part of a century. You know, we walk around thinking we're broken, but we're actually just dealing with a massive overdose of possibility. Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1. The modern anxiety epidemic. Statistically speaking, you have more options than any human in history. Think about it. Your ancestors had highly specific problems. They had their village, their trade, and basically their assigned paths in life. But today, you have infinite options. You can change your city, your career, your relationships, even your whole identity. And this brilliantly illustrates what happened in a famous study from Columbia University. Basically, researchers set up a jam tasting display. When shoppers were offered a display of just 6 jams, they actually bought more and were far more satisfied with their choice. But when they were offered 24 jams, well, the huge display drew a lot of curiosity for sure, but it resulted in total paralysis. People with more options just ended up walking away with nothing. More choice didn't produce more satisfaction, it just produced paralysis. And honestly, that 24 jam display has basically become the modern world. So who actually figured this out? The medical mystery diagnostician who solved this wasn't some modern tech CEO or a modern psychologist. No, it was a slightly hunchback Danish philosopher named Søren Kierkegaard. Way back in 1844, literally before electricity, let alone the internet, he wrote a short book that accurately diagnosed the inner life of a modern internet citizen. He saw your burnout coming almost 2 centuries ago. Which brings us to part 2, the dizziness of freedom. To really understand his diagnosis, I want you to picture yourself standing at the edge of a massive chalk cliff. You look down, your stomach completely drops, and you feel sick, right? Now, most people call that fear, but Kierkegaard made this absolutely brilliant distinction. Fear has a specific object. Fear says, uh-oh, that bear is going to eat me, or I am going to fall off this cliff. But anxiety? Anxiety has no object. You see, you weren't actually afraid of falling. You're afraid of the fact that nothing is stopping you from jumping. The danger isn't outside of you, it's the unbounded possibility inside of you. Which brings us to this incredibly prophetic quote. Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. Let that sink in for a second. The sickness you feel isn't a flaw in your biology. It's the sickly, weightless feeling of contemplating your own infinite choices. You're basically living on a cliff that is also an endless buffet. So I want to assure you, directly, you are not broken. You are just dizzy. Moving on to part 3, the hidden tax on possibility. So, how do we usually cope with all this dizziness? Well, we avoid commitment. Kierkegaard actually called this the Aesthete lifestyle. This is someone who organizes their entire life around avoiding boredom. They just endlessly chase novelty. They never commit, because committing means killing off all the other versions of themselves that they might become. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the person you dated who wouldn't make things official. Or, let's be real, the version of you sitting on the couch at 11 p.m. scrolling 3 different apps because actually choosing a single movie to watch feels like a life sentence. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that our smartphones are basically this exact avoidance lifestyle just rendered as infrastructure by algorithms. The whole strategy is simply to never choose. But here is the core tragedy of living like that. A possibility is free. An actuality costs you everything else. You see, you can hold 1,000 possible lives in your head, and they cost you absolutely nothing. But the exact moment you choose one, the moment you marry one person or take one specific job, you have to pay the ultimate price. You basically have to murder all the other possibilities. And because we really don't want to pay that price, we keep all our doors slightly ajar. But holding those possibilities open charges us steep interest in the currency of our presence. It creates what we call an unburied corpse. Every single kept open option is a version of you that would have lived that specific life just hovering around you, draining your energy simply because you refuse to let it die. And when those corpses start to pile up, well, that pile is exactly what we call modern anxiety. You simply cannot be fully engaged in the life you actually have if you're constantly negotiating with ghosts. Let's move to and see how this builds into part 4, auditing your open doors. The great thing is, Kierkegaard didn't just point out the problem, he actually provided a framework for the solution. Here is a highly actionable 7-day door audit drawn straight from the source material. First, inventory every single decision you've been considering for over a year. Second, calculate what keeping that door open is actually costing your daily presence. Third, and honestly, this is what most self-help completely skips over, actually grieve the unlived lives behind those doors. And finally, choose. You either walk through the door or you close it for good. Because cutting away options is what actually sculpts and creates a self. Think about it. A sculptor doesn't add marble to make a masterpiece, they remove it. Now, during this audit, you'll very likely uncover what's called a phantom future. This is a micro-framework for a possibility that you keep open purely as an emotional escape hatch, just to avoid committing to your current life. So here's the test. If you haven't taken a concrete physical world step toward an option in 30 days, it's a phantom. It is doing absolutely nothing but draining your energy, and it must be decisively abandoned. Which leads us to part 5, taking the leap. So, the crucial point is, to cure the dizziness, you have to take what Kierkegaard called the leap. That's moving from the clean, safe limbo of infinite options into the dirty, finite, irreversible commitment of inhabiting a real life. Look, we're constantly sold this modern illusion that freedom equals a massive menu. We think being unfree means being limited, but real freedom isn't the menu. Real freedom is the meal. True freedom is the profound peace and relief you feel after you finally ordered, put the menu away, and turned your full attention to the person sitting across from you. This is just a deeply liberating inversion of how we normally think. A river is not freer when it floods. It is most itself when it has banks. A small, committed, actual life infinitely outranks a vast, unchosen theoretical one. You are not truly yourself until you choose a shape and pay for it. I want to end this explainer with a really provocative question pulled directly from the source material. I want you to look at your own life right now. What is the door in your life right now that you have refused to either walk through or close? I challenge you, stop keeping your options open. Notice the door, pay the tax of actuality, and make the leap. I promise you, you'll be lighter in the morning.